and they are distributed in 85% of European region. They cover almost 90% of the active population. In Italy, we have 13 hubs. MicroCyber is one of them. Italy also has 24 plans which have been funded, and so Italy invested 150 million euro to support this network of European regional digital hub, which are distributed all over the territory. MicroCyber is one of these extend all over the system. I conclude by thanking all the consortium of the cyber network coordinated by the European network. I'd like to thank Mr. Camponeschi with Fabi, the National Inter-University Center Chile, and the chairs. Professor Naso is here. DG4 company, which is with us, working with us in the developing of IT system, and so I'd like to thank you again for your participation, and have a fruitful day.
Allora, innanzitutto ringraziamo il dottor De Maldè.
So I'd like to thank Mr. De Maldè for describing the topics of today, and now I'd like to introduce the Vice Secretary of Finance and Director of MicroCyber, Nicola Bess. Okay, so the president of the national body for microcredit, Mario Baccini. So thanks everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here because I see the minister after a long time. So Tommaso Foti is a great representative of Italian institutions, but is also a man who is a proactive man. So thank you for everything you are doing for our country. I'd like to welcome all the guests that are part of this strategic project. We want to show you Mr. Tagliaferri, President Frattasi, that I already met some time ago in his agency, Mrs. Spina, that I welcome with great pleasure, Director of the Postal Police Service, Ivano Gabrielli, and of course, when Senator Zaffini comes, we will talk to him also. I'd like to welcome you all by talking about this great intuition, because when Kofi Annan launched the international appeal on microcredit as an instrument to fight against financial exclusion and poverty, Italy was one of the first countries in the world to take this appeal and create for the first time in Europe and the world a public institution dealing with social and market economics to satisfy the needs of the people without freedom and desire. This is the reference point. Why am I saying this? Because otherwise we cannot understand the context where we are. So on one end we are all there in social and market economics, and at the other end we have the market, which is aimed to the profit, the satisfaction of people's needs, and our businesses falls within the gray category of the economic policy of our country. And having an economic public entity like the national body for entity for microcredit is a best practice, which is doing a capacity building to teach the Italian model. And so with this initiative, with this project, micro companies in our country created also thanks to the public funds, because when banks don't act well with microcredit acts, and microcredit it is not a small loan that banks give. Microcredit means small loan, which becomes microcredit thanks to support services, ancillary services, which make a non-bankable person a bankable person, a person who is a burden for the state now because cannot have access to the credit, thanks to the government intervention, the public intervention, and intervention by the national entity for microcredit, can transform that person into a micro enterprise. And so it's an extraordinary success because it is a cost for the state. So you can think a person who has an idea, goes to a bank, cannot have a loan, becomes victim of crime, and can become a cost for the state. Through microcredit, this person becomes a micro enterprise and can hire also 2 or 4 people on average. In our country, over the last few years, thanks to this public intervention, more than 25,000 new enterprises have been established, and this is a great success because money has to be given back. So we don't do the operation which some regions in our country do by calling microcredit just some grants, which are also causing some troubles to such an instrument. So what am I saying? That today in our country, the real army that we have is the army of small and medium enterprises. So this is our army. 80% of the spinal cord of our country is made of those who pay taxes, those who work, those who hire, those who need this great army, which is an exclusively Italian heritage. We do not have big industry, but we have SMEs, and we have to give weapons to this army. We have to give weapons to this army, that is cybersecurity, because through a consultancy support also, because these SMEs, they can work in their sector, but they cannot be on the market, they cannot protect themselves. And so the state, also thanks to the funds and thanks to all the pillars we have at European level, thanks to the ministry, we have also for European cohesion, the regional national funds, etc. Well, we can give these companies protection and training. So financial training, but also training on data protection and competitiveness, also by using artificial intelligence, which can be important. So I'm not saying more. I'd like to thank you all. This is a great opportunity to say where we are, what we want, and where we want to go. I believe this conference can be useful for all the operators to understand that Italy is there, that the public support is there, and we want to, the government wants to support all the companies, Italian companies. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you, Senator Baccini, for the great words you said about me. We have been colleagues for a long time. We shared a lot of experiences, and so we continue our good tradition. First of all, I'd like to say something. Over the last few days, I met the Commissioner on Security and Migration of the European Commission, and while we were talking about external defense and many other topics, I said, you have something wonderful in Italy. So the national cybersecurity. We went there and we want to go back to Rome because we believe this is an example for all Europe, and this can be a model for Europe. So I can say this before the director, Mr. Catalsi, because I believe that among the many things which are said about Italy and negative things which are said, this is based on the reform of the National Recovery Plan. When we talk about the National Recovery Plan, and so when we wonder to what extent we have expenditure, we have to talk about reforms. So expenditure is that, but reforms are aimed at producing effects over time and producing a general improvement of our society. And so what I want to say is that we are at the state of the art in several sectors of cybersecurity. European pulse of digital innovation. We have presentation of programs which go beyond the resources which the European Union has given us. As a matter of fact, some programs were not funded, but the level of excellence has been given to them. So this means that today there is a great quality in a strategic profile. I was hearing those who talked before me who said we don't know how the defense plan will be called, but maybe the best name is to call it defense plan, because if we say that a country must defend the public administration, the enterprise system, especially SMEs systems, which is the weakest one from the attacks of a political and non-political crime, because also from this point of view we have to say that on one end we have heavy flows, and we had a recent example 3 years ago, the invasion of Russia, of Ukraine by Russia, is something that we must never forget. But we have seen that there are more useful systems in order to mitigate these problems and to develop a defense system. And from this point of view, I hope that in this defense plan we can understand that we're talking about two levels, not only production of new weapons, but also a problem of research, a problem of innovation, a problem of defense of some systems which are in our daily life. When a phone doesn't work, for example, I believe every person gets mad and crazy today, not because people are used to have a smartphone in their hands, but because it has become a device with which we live every day. Many of the things we used to do in many hours, well, we do them in just a few minutes. So we have a lot of apps, and so there is a proliferation of apps, but they also help us. Well, I cannot say the same for the chats, because now we have 1,000 groups and we don't have time to answer all the groups. But today we have a level that we have to defend. In order to do this, we need training. Element that maybe many people pretend they don't understand. For this reason, regions are important, because on the training of personnel, since regions have their own competence, and in a cohesion plan there are many resources, we have to understand also from a political point of view that we cannot continue our tradition with cohesion expenses. Today, cohesion expenses have to become system expenses which can help the country and the regions to work better. When I see public tenders which address SMEs in order to improve the security system of SMEs, well, this is an asset for Italy, this is an advantage for Italy, for the different enterprises. We have to spread this culture, in my opinion, which, well, at first it's normal that there are some resistances, because in a new world, traditionally, the phase of the initial resistance will always be there. But we have to overcome all this, because we have resources. The National Recovery Plan gives 700 million in cohesion funds. We have other resources. There are regions which have understood and have developed programs, and other regions which prefer to do something else. But this is a strategic mistake, because there cannot be a two-speed Italy. I'm not saying north and south, because if we check, we have regions in the north and in the south which activated, and regions in the north, south and center which didn't do anything. So the commitment of the ministry, even if we cannot go against the autonomy, because as you know, the different plans are developed with regions based on the programs developed by the different regions. I can tell you that cohesion funds today are the ones which at European level are questioned a lot. In Italy, we said we will not use the resources of the cohesion fund to rearm Europe. But I have to say, this is not rearming Europe, but this is defense. And so nobody can tell us anything if we use a part of cohesion funds during the programming specifically for these interventions, because we have to face the issue about concerning the change of a geopolitical framework, a change in the different alliances, and so based on this we can orient our choices. Otherwise we can just think we live in an ancient world, which is beautiful from a point, which can be beautiful but not practical at all. For this reason, I confirm my commitment and the commitment of the government to use cohesion funds, which and I'd like to tell you that at European level today, the quantity of resources to give to allocate to cohesion funds is questioned, and they represent more than 30% of the European budget. So we have to spend these funds, we have to spend them well, we have to spend them so that they have they can give our enterprises a secure and safe future. The public administration must operate in a secure way, and at the same time we must not pretend that the world has not changed, because we have to change with it. Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you very much, Minister Foti. Thank you for this enlightening speech that has shown us, among other things, the cohesion policies supporting digitalization and supporting cybersecurity facilities together with the best possible tools for cybersecurity, which is the main topic of today's conference. It is not only about cybersecurity and digitalization, it is also about cohesion. And while we're waiting to connect with the European Commission, I would like to invite our speakers, Luca Tagliaretti, Director of the ECCC, European Cybersecurity Competence Center, Bruno Fattasi, Director of the Agency for National Cybersecurity, Eva Spina, Head of the Department for Digital Tools, Connectivity and New Technologies, MIT. Let's start with Luca Tagliaretti. He is Executive Director of the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, the ECCC. It helps the industrial sector in digital research, and the European Commission supports this unit in terms of the resilience and reliability of the IT facilities available. It also works to improve the competitiveness of cybersecurity. Mr. Tagliaretti, we are proud that we have an Italian national covering this important role. So, Mr. Tagliaretti, on top of your activity supporting public administration as well as micro and small companies, we know that you are also working on innovation thanks to the support of different partners. And right now, we are starting up an incubation process with 5 startup companies providing cybersecurity services. And we have realized that carrying out this work is becoming more and more challenges because you have to keep up with the pace of innovation, especially in the current scenario where we have to come to terms with the use of artificial intelligence and quantistic computers. Therefore, we are playing at the highest possible level, and we have to be there because it is like a game between a team that is attacking and a team that is defending. So, can you tell us a little bit about the center you're leading, the ECCC, and then we would like to ask you what is the role that the ECCC can play when it comes to discerning among the different funds that are available at a European level. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Minister Foti and President Pacini for inviting me here today. As you said, this center was born with 3 objectives. The first one is that a support in research within the cyber sector. We want to make Italian companies, European companies more competitive at a European level in the international scenario. And we pursue these objectives by allocating funds and by following a European strategy. We also deploy a system activity that coordinates different European stakeholders. And that's why today's conference is important, because it allows us to get into a dimension we are not usually working with, that is to say, the national dimension. I've just said one thing to Mr. Frattasi. I mean, last time we met here in Italy, we met because Italy was one of the receivers of a European fund, and according to the last investments that were allocated to Italy, Italy has gone up in the ranking by one place. So, and this is a great result. So last time we met, we talked about the role of the ECCC for the preparation of the Italian society with regard to new technologies. And this is the question you've just asked me. So to answer, I can say that there is one part that we should take into account, that is to say, research about quantistic tools, and then we have to take into account artificial intelligence. When it comes to these two topics, we work together with the Commission. We are not those managing the European strategy. When it comes to research, that's what the Horizon program does. The Finnish minister issued a report highlighting the activities that the EU should carry out to make EU safer. Well, basically, one of the points he highlights is about the development of quantistic research. He also focuses on how we make these technologies available to the market, that is to say, available to the European companies and the public administration to foster and to apply cybersecurity. Therefore, we bind research and implementation investments. So for the next 4 years, we have over